Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't. You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. Ha, how white of me.
Gill.
Thank you, Chairwoman Green, and I apologize. I'm getting over a cold, so I'm losing my voice here. Ms. Maher, I want to start with you. Just generally, would you say you generally agree or disagree with the following statement? The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles?
I would not say I agree with that, sir.
You're not. That's good to hear. It's interesting because a lot of your thinking, as expressed by your public statements, is deeply infused with economic and cultural Marxism. Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half-decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't. You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. Ha, how white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone to pay reparations.
Seems to be what you're suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being
illegal. You tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my time at NPR.
You tweeted that you read that book, but...
A congressional hearing turned into a fiery showdown as Representative Brandon Gill confronted NPR CEO Katherine Maher over her past social media posts, views on race, reparations, and the use of taxpayer funding. Gill argued that Maher's previous statements reflected a political ideology that has no place in a publicly funded news organization, while Maher insisted many of her views have changed over time. I watched Representative Gill open with a series of questions about Katherine Maher's past statements on race in American society, but he asked whether she agreed with the Marxist phrase that the history of all existing society is the history of class struggles. Maher answered that she did not. Gill then turned to several of her old social media posts, questioning comments in which she had described America as being addicted to white supremacy. Maher acknowledged posting those comments years ago but said her thinking had evolved significantly since then and that she no longer held many of those views. Gill continued by asking Maher about tweets referencing reparations and racial privilege. Reading directly from her previous posts, he questioned whether she believed white Americans should pay reparations. Maher denied advocating for direct financial reparations, explaining that her comments were intended to acknowledge America's historical legacy rather than call for monetary payments. Gill challenged that explanation, arguing that her earlier statements appeared to say something very different. That if you're enjoying this breakdown of today's hearing, Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more explosive congressional hearings and political debates.
I don't believe that I did read that book, sir.
Do you think that a few years ago, NPR educated America about, quote, the whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts? Do you think that that's an appropriate use of tax dollars?
I was not at NPR at the time, sir.
That's not the question, though. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of our tax dollars?
I think our tax dollars that we use are to be able to provide a wide range of
I'll take that as a yes. You do believe that that's appropriate. Your health advisor at NPR also stated in an interview that, quote, fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat. Would you like to explain how fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat? That's an editorial at NPR.
I am not familiar with the editorial, and I don't believe that was published during my time here.
It's called Diet Culture is Everywhere. Here's how to fight it. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I think any reporting on health is an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars, yes.
And you think that editorializing that fat is not unhealthy is appropriate?
I don't know what that article is, sir, and I'm not familiar with it, so I couldn't say.
This is fake news. Do you think that basic accommodations like doorways or seat belts represent, quote, latent fat phobia?
I don't have an opinion.
It's also from NPR. Do you think civility is racist?
No, sir.
No. Your outlet ran an article entitled, quote, when civility is used as a cudgel against people of color. That was on All Things Considered. Would you like to explain?
I'm not on the editorial side, sir. I'm not familiar with that story.
You talk about how NPR is news. This is editorialization, and I'll read it. For many people of color in the United States, civility isn't so much social lubricant as it is a vehicle for containing them, preventing social mobility, and preserving the status quo. This is garbage. I'll spend all of my time doing everything I can to ensure you guys never get another dollar of taxpayer funding. This is complete garbage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. I now recognize...
The hearing then shifted to NPR's editorial content. Gill questioned Maher about articles discussing looting during the 2020 protests, gender identity, body image, and race-related topics that he argued that taxpayer-funded media should not promote what he described as ideological or political viewpoints. Maher repeatedly responded that many of the articles cited were published before she joined NPR and emphasized that she was not personally responsible for the organization's editorial decisions. During that period, Gill remained unconvinced, arguing that public funding should not support content he viewed as politically biased. As his time expired, Gill delivered his strongest criticism, calling several of NPR's published articles garbage. He vowed to oppose continued taxpayer funding for the organization. Maher offered little response as the hearing moved to the next member. The hearing highlighted the ongoing debate over public funding for media organizations, editorial independence, and political bias. Representative Brandon Gill argued that NPR has promoted ideological viewpoints inconsistent with objective journalism, while Katherine Maher defended herself by saying many of the statements and articles discussed either reflected past views she no longer holds or predated her leadership at NPR. The exchange underscored the growing political divide over the role of taxpayer-funded media.